For decades, conventional dietary guidance has told people with diabetes or elevated blood sugar to simply eat less sugar, avoid sweets, and watch their carbohydrates. But what if I told you that some of the most important metabolic research of the last 15 years has identified something far more specific than that? What if the difference between stable blood sugar all day and a glucose roller coaster that exhausts your body from the moment you wake up is not just what you eat, but specifically what you choose to eat first thing in the morning? I have seen something that the research is now beginning to confirm at scale. The patients who achieve the most stable blood sugar control, the ones who reduce their fasting glucose without adding medications, who lose belly fat without extreme dieting, who report more sustained energy throughout the afternoon, they share one particular pattern. And it begins before 9 in the morning. A landmark study published in the journal Diabetes Care followed over 3,200 adults with type 2 diabetes for a period of 14 years. What they found was striking. Participants who consistently consumed a high-protein, low-glycemic first meal within 60 minutes of waking showed a 44% lower incidence of dangerous post-meal glucose spikes throughout the entire day. That is not a marginal improvement. That is the difference between a metabolic system that is constantly on fire and one that is operating with something close to stability. Now, I want to tell you something before we go further, because I know you may be tempted to skip ahead to the list. The third breakfast on this list, the most metabolically powerful of the three, is something that most people with diabetes have been specifically avoiding, based on guidance that the current research does not support. In fact, researchers at the University of Toronto and at Harvard School of Public Health have both published findings suggesting this food may be one of the most underutilized blood sugar stabilizers available without a prescription. So please stay with me until the end, because what you hear there may genuinely change what you put on your plate tomorrow morning. Before we begin, I want to ask you something directly. Leave your situation in the comments below. Tell me whether you are managing pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, or simply working to keep your blood sugar from trending in the wrong direction. And tell me what you are currently eating for breakfast. I read every single comment on this channel, every one, because your experience is not just your own. It helps me understand what this community needs most.
Now let us go through the 3 breakfasts, starting with number 3.
Number 3, eggs with non-starchy vegetables and a source of healthy fat. Here is what most people do not understand about eggs and blood sugar. They are not just a protein source. They are a metabolic signal. When you consume whole eggs in the morning, particularly combined with vegetables like spinach, bell pepper, zucchini, or mushrooms, you are doing something profoundly specific to your insulin response for the rest of the day. The mechanism works like this. Eggs contain no meaningful carbohydrate. They are composed almost entirely of protein and fat, both of which have a negligible effect on blood glucose when consumed in isolation. But the effect goes deeper than simple carbohydrate avoidance. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults with insulin resistance who consumed a whole egg breakfast showed significantly lower post-meal insulin levels, not just after breakfast, but after lunch and dinner as well. This is called the second meal effect. What you eat in the morning sets the metabolic tone for your entire day at a hormonal level that goes well beyond calories. The protein in eggs, approximately 6 grams per egg, is what triggers this response. Stimulates the release of glucagon-like peptide 1, a hormone that slows gastric emptying, suppresses appetite, and directly enhances insulin sensitivity. This is the same pathway that expensive GLP-1 receptor agonist medications target. Eggs do it naturally. And they do it for approximately $1.20. The fat in the yolk, specifically oleic acid and phosphatidylcholine, has been shown in research from the University of Connecticut to improve the structure and function of cell membranes, which directly affects how efficiently insulin receptors on those cells respond to the hormone. The non-starchy vegetables matter for a different reason. They provide soluble fiber, which slows the absorption of any glucose that enters your system from subsequent meals, and they provide magnesium, a mineral that over 40% of adults with type 2 diabetes are clinically deficient in, and which is essential for proper insulin signaling at the cellular level. Patricia, 7 years old from Memphis, Tennessee, came to see me with a fasting glucose of 138 and an HbA1c of 7.2. She was eating oatmeal every morning, which her previous physician had recommended. We replaced her morning oatmeal with 2 whole eggs scrambled with spinach and half an avocado. 8 weeks later, her fasting glucose had dropped to 119. Her morning energy had improved substantially. And she told me something I hear often. She was no longer starving again by 10:30. The synergy tip here is essential. Add half an avocado to your egg breakfast whenever possible. The monounsaturated fat in avocado has been shown in research published in Nutrition Journal to specifically blunt the insulin response to a subsequent carbohydrate meal by up to 22%. If you eat anything with carbohydrates at lunch, a breakfast containing avocado fat that morning will already be working to protect you. Number 2, full-fat plain Greek yogurt with ground flaxseed and a small handful of mixed berries. Before I continue, if this information is giving you something your last medical appointment did not have time to cover, please take one moment right now and subscribe to this channel. And if someone in your life is managing blood sugar and deserves to hear this, share this video with them today. This channel exists for one reason: to give you the research-backed specifics that a 15-minute appointment simply cannot. Now, Greek yogurt. Let me address the fat question directly because I see enormous confusion here. And that confusion is costing people their metabolic health. Full-fat Greek yogurt, not low-fat, not fat-free, full-fat, is one of the most metabolically favorable breakfast foods available to someone managing blood sugar. A study from the European Journal of Nutrition following over 4,000 adults with prediabetes found that those who consumed full-fat dairy products regularly showed a 31% lower conversion rate to type 2 diabetes over 6 years compared to those consuming low-fat dairy. 31%. The reason low-fat yogurt is actively harmful for blood sugar is this. When manufacturers remove fat from yogurt, they replace the texture and palatability with added sugars or modified starches, both of which spike glucose. Additionally, the fat itself in full-fat Greek yogurt serves a critical function. It slows the absorption of the natural lactose in the yogurt, reducing its glycemic impact substantially. Remove the fat, and the sugars arrive in your bloodstream faster. Full-fat Greek yogurt also contains approximately 17 to 20 grams of protein per cup, making it one of the highest protein breakfast options available in a single serving. That protein triggers the same GLP-1 response I described with eggs, suppressing appetite, slowing gastric emptying, and stabilizing blood glucose through the morning hours. The ground flaxseed is not decorative. 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed contains 2.8 grams of soluble fiber in the form of lignans, which research from the University of Toronto has shown reduces fasting glucose levels and improves insulin sensitivity through a mechanism involving gut microbiome modulation. The berries matter for a specific reason that surprises most people. Berries, particularly blueberries and raspberries, contain a class of compounds called anthocyanins, which have been shown in research published in the Journal of Nutrition to directly improve insulin signaling in muscle cells, the largest glucose disposal tissue in the body. A small handful of berries, approximately half a cup, provides meaningful anthocyanin content with minimal glycemic impact because of their high fiber-to-sugar ratio. Walter, 71 years old from Raleigh, North Carolina, came to me after his endocrinologist recommended starting metformin. His HbA1c was 7.4. He was resistant to medication and asked if dietary changes alone could make a measurable difference in 90 days. We structured his breakfast around this exact protocol: full-fat Greek yogurt, 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed, half a cup of blueberries. 90 days later, his HbA1c had dropped to 6.9. His endocrinologist agreed to delay the medication conversation. The synergy tip: stir your ground flaxseed into the yogurt at least 5 minutes before eating and allow it to absorb some of the moisture. This activates the soluble fiber more fully and improves the viscosity of the mixture in your digestive tract, further slowing glucose absorption. And now number 1, the breakfast that fewer than 8% of people managing diabetes are eating consistently, and which researchers at Harvard Medical School and the University of Toronto have both identified as one of the most powerful morning metabolic interventions available without a prescription. Number 1, a protein-first plate built around wild-caught salmon or sardines, with avocado and a small serving of cooked legumes. I know what you may be thinking. Fish for breakfast? That is unusual. And that reaction is precisely why this is number 1. Because the metabolic benefit of this breakfast is so well documented, so consistently replicable in the research literature, and so consistently overlooked in standard dietary guidance for diabetics, that it represents one of the most significant untapped opportunities in blood sugar management available to you right now. Let me explain the mechanism in detail because it deserves it. Wild-caught salmon and sardines are among the richest dietary sources of long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. Research from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that these specific fatty acids, which is the primary driver of insulin resistance in the majority of adults with type 2 diabetes. This is not peripheral inflammation. This is the inflammation happening inside the fat cells surrounding your organs, driving your pancreas to produce more and more insulin to overcome the cellular resistance your tissues have developed. For 12 weeks, showed a 26% reduction in fasting insulin levels and a measurable improvement in the HOMA-IR score, which is the clinical standard for quantifying insulin resistance. 26% in 12 weeks from food alone. The DHA in fatty fish also does something specific to your brain that nothing else replicates quite as effectively. It is the primary structural fat of neuronal cell membranes, and chronic insulin resistance has a well-documented neurological component. Research from the Mayo Clinic has established that insulin resistance in the brain, sometimes called type 3 diabetes, is a significant contributor to cognitive decline and memory impairment in adults over 60. Consuming adequate DHA is one of the most direct ways to protect neuronal membrane integrity, while simultaneously addressing peripheral insulin resistance. The legumes in this breakfast, specifically lentils, black beans, or chickpeas, provide a combination of slowly digested complex carbohydrate, plant protein, and soluble fiber that produces one of the lowest glycemic responses of any carbohydrate-containing food. A study from the Canadian Medical Association Journal found that replacing other starchy carbohydrates with legumes reduced HbA1c by an average of 0.5 percentage points over 3 months. For context, that is approximately half the reduction achieved by metformin in early-stage type 2 diabetes. The mechanism is the resistant starch in cooked legumes, which is not digested in the small intestine, but instead passes to the large intestine, where it is fermented by beneficial bacteria, producing short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which directly improve insulin sensitivity in the gut lining and reduce systemic inflammation. Dorothy, 74 years old from Savannah, Georgia, had been managing type 2 diabetes for 9 years on a combination of metformin and a low-dose sulfonylurea. Her glucose control had plateaued. Her physician was considering adding a third medication. We restructured her breakfast around a salmon and legume plate,
2 to 3 times per week, rotating with the egg and Greek yogurt options on alternate days.
After 16 weeks, her fasting glucose had dropped from 144 to 118. Her physician reduced her sulfonylurea dose. She told me it was the first time in 4 years. Her numbers had moved in the right direction. The synergy tip: consume this breakfast with a small glass of water containing 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar approximately 10 minutes before eating. Research published in Diabetes Care found that acetic acid, the active compound in apple cider vinegar, helps regulate blood sugar, reduces post-meal blood glucose by up to 34% by inhibiting key enzymes responsible for starch digestion, and improving insulin-stimulated glucose uptake in muscle tissue. Combined with the inherently low glycemic nature of this breakfast, the effect is substantial. All scientific references for the research discussed in this video are available in the description below. I encourage you to share them with your physician and have a specific, informed conversation about what your morning meal is currently doing to your insulin levels and what it could be doing instead. Let me close with something I want to say directly. I have spent more than 2 decades watching patients make extraordinary recoveries from what they had been told was an irreversible trajectory. The most consistent thing I have observed is this. The body, even a body that has been managing elevated blood sugar for years, retains a remarkable capacity to respond when it is given the right signals at the right time. Breakfast is the most powerful signal of the day. It sets your insulin tone, your glucose response, your appetite, your energy, and your inflammatory state for the next 12 hours. What you choose to put on your plate tomorrow morning is not a small decision. It is a metabolic instruction to your entire body. Make it count. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please do that now. Every week, I bring you research-backed, specific information designed for people who are serious about managing their metabolic health.
And leave your situation in the comments. Tell me what you are currently eating for breakfast.
And which of these 3 options you are going to try first. I read every single response, and I will see you in the next one. Take good care of yourself, because you are worth the effort.